for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
Rudy Giuliani Associates, linked to Ukrainian investigations, have been indicted on campaign finance charges and were actually arrested at the airport upon returning from Ukraine? Was that
No, they were here. They were here, and they had a one-way flight back to Ukraine.
Okay,
so they had just had like a bunch of fun. They'd been out to dinner. They'd been to the White House a month before. They kind of like did a lot of.
Had their tourist visas probably.
Yes,
they're both citizens.
U.S. citizens?
Yes, they're both U.S. citizens.
Wow.
That's why having one-way flights to Ukraine is really an important factor.
Red flag.
Yep.
Yes, they were arrested Wednesday.
No pun intended. Red flag. Get it? Okay, go ahead.
I don't get it.
I'm going to say pun intended.
Red, Russian communist red flag. Well, never mind.
Whatever.
Okay, all right.
So, yes, they were arrested at Dulles International Airport in Virginia. And what's going on here? What are they accused of doing? It's Parnas and Fruman.
Yeah, Fruman.
Fruman, and that's kind of an issue because one of the allegations is that he got around some of the finance forms because of a misspelling of his name. One was Fruman and the other one was Furman. So I remember reading one of those allegations there. But what happened? What's going on, Denise?
Well, this has already come out of the grand jury.
Yes.
So there's an indictment out of the grand jury, and this involves violating the Federal Election Commission laws. So we have what's called the Election Act. And the Election Act precludes foreign monies being contributed to any kind of federal campaign in the United States. There cannot be monies contributed under false names. There cannot be excessive monies contributed. So there's a cap on what can be contributed. So what these two individuals did is they and it's called the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971 as amended.
And just to make sure we understand, so no foreign money can come in, and of domestic money, there's a cap on what you can donate, right?
Yes.
That's basically what this is. And recently in the law, you've also heard about other things that you also can't accept any favors or things in kind that would help from foreign nationals. But this case here involves primarily just money, right? Primarily.
No, not necessarily. There's kind of a twist to it, too.
Yeah.
It involves also trying to develop a business. So it's not just about finance money, but it's also about getting monies and even diverting some of that money, which is kind of an interesting thing. But what they did was they created their own little entity. They had a corporation, and that entity was collecting money from foreign nationals, from people in the United States, and they were giving that money to different campaigns, including one congressman, and they also gave it to a super PAC. $325,000 went to a super PAC, to pro-Trump super PAC, American First Action. And that exceeded both the quantity that they could contribute, and it also was improper because it was like using their company as a straw man.
Right,
if
and
you
in
will.
all fairness, I believe a similar thing happened under the Obama administration with a Chinese bundler who would go out and bundle up these big things and run them through private local companies and then made their donations to PACs and races that they favored.
Right, absolutely. And then these different entities that received it, some of them are claiming now they're going to segregate it. They have it segregated out. They're not going to don't really know what they're going to do with it. Some have said they're going to give it to some kind of charity, but they can't do anything with it right now until this investigation is over. Right. And this investigation is big. This is not a small little investigation because you've got two foreign-born now citizens of the United States involving themselves with some Russian, and they just name it as Russian number one, and they haven't named names yet, but they're getting really close to it. And certainly with regard to the one congressman, they did name the congressman's name. What is his name?
Well,
I'm forgetting his name for some reason.
Well, the interesting thing, you talk about that.
David Correa, right?
But let's make sure. In the indictment does not mention the names. The indictment doesn't mention the name of the super PAC, the articles that we have, because here's the thing. The indictment doesn't mention that, but then when you go to the FEC website and talk about contributions, for example, in the indictment it says that GEP, the name of their company, donated $325,000 to committee number 1. Well, then somebody has to take the next step to go to the FEC website and find out, okay, who did GEP donate $325,000 to? Oh, it was America First, or whatever that one was. The same thing is true with getting the identity of the congressman. So the articles have gone and done the legwork to find out who that is, but the folks aren't necessarily named in the indictment. So we can identify them, but not because of what the indictment says. I think the thing that's interesting, if you've heard in the news recently this hubbub about the removal of the Ukrainian ambassador from the United States, right, that was removed recently, this indictment alleges that the influence from Ukrainians to these individuals to fund the PACs, to get the money to support the congressman, I don't know why she swallowed the fly. I guess she'll die. It sounds like all that. When you follow all that, it was in small part, or in no small part, because they wanted the ambassador removed from Ukraine. And so
that's right.
So the congressman appears to have played a part in that, maybe, but that's what's happening. The interesting thing from my standpoint is these two individuals are associates of Rudy Giuliani. We have heard recently the allegations that Giuliani, Barr, and Trump have been working in concert to dig up dirt on Joe Biden and what have you. The articles say that Barr knew about and knew that these folks were going to be arrested. We'll pick that up and talk about why that is significant when we come back from the break. But is there a chink in the armor of that trifecta? Who knows?
Oh, I think there is. There's going to be a connection.
Yeah.
And they came out today saying that Giuliani is part of the investigation.
Yeah.
That was the news this morning. So stay with us. Tweet us at Radio Law Talk. Call us at 855-LAW-RADIO. We want to hear from you.
The trails of political intrigue take many a twist. We'll discuss it further when we come back here on Radio Law Talk.
Is this real life?
Time to get back to Radio Law Talk on RadioLawTalk.com and on your favorite radio station.
Yeah, I got a cat. What are you going to make of it? You know, Denise,
with a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, well, she better have one. So, Rudy Giuliani made a statement after his associates were arrested. Made a statement where he was a little surprised the arrest had taken place, given that there was another matter that had yet to resolve that he said was essentially a civil matter. And at the break, we were talking about how this criminal case is tracking closely to what's going on there. What is this civil thing that's going on?
Well, I'm not sure what civil matter he's referring to, but there is some money that has been taken out and how do I say that? A Russian national provided money, and that money was then used to obtain influence with political candidates regarding policies to benefit a recreational marijuana business venture and to help obtain retail marijuana licenses. So the allegations in this suit look like that could be where the civil connection's involved, because it looks like a Russian national is trying to get in, trying to somehow produce marijuana and do it in a legal way, obtain licensing and all of that. And in order to do so, he's got to gain influence with candidates, with political candidates, and with actual, members of Congress and members of state legislatures perhaps as well.
So, yeah, but there was this, when I say civil matter, I guess anything not criminal, in my opinion, would be a civil matter. So Giuliani actually represents these two people. In that case, it was a civil matter, a non-criminal matter, still under the purview of the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission. And he represents them. That has yet to be resolved. That's why he said he was a little shocked that the arrest was made, because he viewed this as largely just a civil matter. But it'll be interesting to see where this goes going forward. One thing that I think that we have seen recently, because in the past, and even Cal brought this up, there were some things that happened under the Obama administration with China and with stuff. We are seeing the Department of Justice really crack down on the influence of foreign nationals in anything related to the United States. There's been an increase. I mean, look, the failure to register as a foreign national was a crime that had been, prosecuted 3 times in its 60-year history prior to this year, and now there are people serving jail time for it. We have this system here that's going on, and quite frankly, I don't think, personally speaking, that the actions of any party as of today are something that they thought, hey, here's something we can do that's never been done before. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. I think that people have been following a practice that has gone on for decades. And I happen to believe that there is a belief that, okay, yeah, it's time for that practice to stop. It's time for that to end. And it ends when people end up getting prosecuted for it. That's
Well,
kind of
here
what's
we
going
have,
on.
Mueller was part of the Justice Department, and he had a lot of indictments that came out against Russians for the interference in the 2016 elections. But since Mueller left, there haven't been a whole lot of indictments through the Justice Department. Justice Department may be made aware of indictments that are coming down, but they're actually coming down in the state courts and not this is a state federal court, right? Yeah.
No, this is United States District Court, Southern District in New York. This is a federal.
Oh, this is a federal court.
Yeah, I mean, states.
But that's not necessarily the Justice Department.
Well, it's the U.S. Attorney's Office.
There you go.
And so it all under that umbrella. Look, even Mueller, when he came across something, if it was in a local jurisdiction, would refer it to that local
Correct.
jurisdiction to handle. And
Yes.
let's also understand Mueller's only been, it's only been, what, 5 months since he gave his report and stepped down. When was it? March?
I think he last talked to, I think it was just in July when he last talked to Congress, though.
Yeah, but his investigation stopped in March. That's when he submitted his report. So we got April, May, June, July, August, September. So 6 months since he's been out. They've got a lot of work there. It'll be interesting to see where individual U.S. attorneys go forward and what sort of precedent this sets for the investigation going forward. We talked about how this might have a tie with the college admissions scandal, right? And I think one tie is there are people, when it comes to college admissions, who had money that, generally speaking, felt like if I had money, I could make a donation, I could grease the skids, do something to help my kid get into that school. Maybe not everybody went so far as paying off proctors to change test scores, but look, if I donate $100,000 for the building of your new wing here, can my kid go to your school? Can that happen? And stuff like that. And likewise, there are these political issues that happen with people talking with foreigners and then coming here and then doing all of this. Well, the game has changed. And I think people may be waiting to see where the dust settles. College admissions parents. Well, okay, what can I donate to help get my kid into school, or is everything completely off limits? And, with that, the dust has to settle to figure out what am I going to be prosecuted, what am I not going to be prosecuted for? And I think the same thing is true here with this political activity, foreign versus domestic and money. And, okay, where is the dust going to settle that allows me to know what I can and cannot do?
In other words, how can I either A, game the system, or B, accomplish what I want to accomplish by using
Legally.
my influence?
Yeah,
right?
there's those that want to figure out how to game the system, but I think there are also those who say, well, how do I engage in, where's the line for what is legal and what is not legal now? And so I think it's just sort of, I had raised this point. We talk during the week, Denise. We text back and forth and email about stories that we're going to do, and I had raised this point. I would be curious to see if anybody is tracking for this college admissions. The total nationally, if you were able to take all of the charitable contributions to all institutions from all individuals nationally and just say, okay, the number is X. If there is, say, in the next year or so, a reduction in the amount of those contributions based upon what we've seen here, because people either, A, don't want to contribute, or B, are fearful that if they do, they'll be prosecuted. If there was any sort of in-kind exchange on admissions for those.
Do you suppose universities are now thinking, how can we retrench our strategies to attract big money donors so we can name the cafeteria after them, so we can let their kids sneak in? I mean, do you suppose that they're kind of rethinking all of that?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine that. We're not going to get into the story, but that, and especially in California with universities having to deal now with a new California law that says that student athletes can be paid commercially for their likeness and for that, which is a clear violation of NCAA rules. But California law says, yeah, go for it. That's going to re-arc the cards for recruiting.
I would dare say.
So what do you think that this political campaign indictments, what do you think is going to come of this? Because to me it looks like it's going to be like a sprawling web. Number one, that there's going to be a lot of people trapped and brought up in this, and some of these people that are players in this that are outside of this exact indictment but have some influence as to it, some of them have, it's been suggested that they've done some impropriety, and they also testified against Manafort. So this is a big thing, and Manafort was doing the same thing, only he was trying to influence Ukrainian elections. He wasn't necessarily coming to the United States to influence United States elections, but he was taking money and receiving money and getting paid to help influence the Ukrainian elections, which is legal in Ukraine, by the way. It's not illegal like it is in the United States.
Do you want my conspiracy theory response?
Sure.
Which is always more entertaining. Up until this week, everybody seemed to be in the climate in the media seemed to be that Trump, Barr, and Giuliani were the unified three-headed monster going after Biden and doing all of this stuff. And maybe this is a red herring to make it look like there's a chink in that armor, the trifecta, because Barr basically signed off or agreed to let these two guys be.
Well, they're the fall guys.
They're the fall guys. They're the fall guys to keep up the appearance that maybe Giuliani and Barr aren't in cahoots to help Trump.
No, I think Giuliani is going to take the downside. That's my theory.
Could be.
I think he's going down, and he'll take the fall for Trump.
Or is it a political operation is the question you're asking, right?
You know, at this point, you can't rule anything out. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.